Have you ever believed in something so strongly that you'd be willing to leave everything behind for it? Well, today we're going to talk about a group of people who did exactly that. They sailed across a huge, dangerous ocean, all for one single, powerful idea. This is the story of the Pilgrims. But first, let me ask you something. Just imagine for a second if someone told you exactly what you had to believe. Like, if the government, or maybe a king, could make rules about what you were allowed to think and feel deep down in your own heart. Kind of weird, right? Well, that's exactly where our story begins. All right, so let's set the scene. Our story kicks off in England, way back, hundreds of years ago. We're about to find out why a group of people who we now call the Pilgrims felt like they had absolutely no choice but to pack up and leave their home for good. So at the very heart of all this was a big, big disagreement. See, the official church, the Church of England, had all these fancy ceremonies and a ton of strict rules. But the Pilgrims, they wanted something much, much simpler. They believed that faith should come straight from the Bible, without all the extra stuff made up by kings and bishops. And the King of England? Oh, he was not happy about this one bit. He basically said they had to follow his rules, or, and these are his words, he would harry them out of the land or else worse. Wow. Suddenly, this wasn't just a friendly disagreement anymore. This was actually getting dangerous. So, when you're facing prison, or even worse, just for what you believe, what do? Well, they made a super brave and incredibly difficult choice. They decided to leave everything they'd ever known and go on a journey for freedom. Now, this journey wasn't a straight line, not at all. First, they had to escape from England, where they were literally being hunted down for what they believed. They made it to a country called Holland, where they were safe, but they were total outsiders. It just didn't feel like home. So finally, they looked across the giant Atlantic Ocean to America and saw it as their one last shot to build a place where they could truly be free.
But man, life in Holland was tough. I mean, can you imagine being a farmer your whole life and then suddenly you have to move to a new country and learn a brand new job just to feed your family? They were often poor and really struggled, but that big idea they shared, that's what kept them going.
So what kept them pushing forward through all that? It was their powerful faith. One of them actually wrote, they knew they were pilgrims and lifted up their eyes to heaven, their dearest country. For them, this whole thing wasn't just a trip. It was a spiritual quest, and believing that gave them the strength to face pretty much anything. So, after that long, dangerous journey across the ocean, they make it. They land in America. They've finally got the freedom they've been dreaming of. But what did they do with it? This is where the story takes a really surprising twist. Okay, so after everything they went through to get away from being told what to believe, you might be shocked by one of the first rules they made. In their new home, they decided that only members of their specific church could vote or be leaders. The government could even punish people who didn't follow their church's rules. But hang on a second. Is that really freedom? I mean, think about it. They fled a country where they were forced to believe one way, only to build a brand new country where other people were forced to believe one way. Well, right around this time, a new person arrives in America, a man who had a bigger, bolder, and frankly, more brilliant idea about what freedom really means. His name was Roger Williams. Roger Williams believed in something he called liberty of conscience. Now, that sounds kind of fancy, but the idea behind it is actually super simple. It's the belief that every single person has the right to their own beliefs, and that no king, no government, no one has the right to get in the middle of that. So Roger Williams had this totally different take. He argued that, yeah, a government's job is to stop crime and keep everyone safe. But he said its job should never be to control what a person thinks or believes in their own heart. You have to understand, back then, this idea was absolutely mind-blowing. And the leaders of the colony, they were furious. For just suggesting that maybe everyone should be free to believe what they want, they gave Roger Williams the harshest punishment they could think of. They banished him, kicked him out, all alone, into the wilderness, in the middle of a freezing winter. He actually described this terrifying experience himself. He wrote, "For 14 weeks, I was sorely tossed, not knowing what bread or bed did mean." Can you imagine? 14 weeks, totally lost and alone. He only survived because he found shelter inside a hollow tree and was helped by local Native Americans who took him in. But here's the incredible part. Roger Williams's brave idea didn't just freeze out there in the snow. Nope, it survived, and it started to grow into an idea big enough for an entire nation. So how did his idea get so big? Well, first, Roger Williams started his own colony, which he called Rhode Island. And its number one most important rule? Total freedom of conscience. It became a safe place for people of any belief. And years later, when the founders of the United States were trying to figure out how to build a country, they looked at Rhode Island and said, hey, this works. True freedom for everyone is actually possible. And in fact, his idea became a key part of America's foundation. You can basically see the DNA of liberty of conscience in some of the country's most important beliefs, that all people are created equal and that the government can never, ever force a religion on its people. So what's the big takeaway from this whole story? It's actually pretty simple, but it is so important. The Pilgrims, they wanted religious freedom for themselves. They were incredibly brave for sure, but their idea of freedom had limits. Roger Williams, on the other hand, believed in religious freedom for everyone. See the difference? Look, this all happened over 400 years ago. It's ancient history, right? But it leaves us with a really big question for right now, for today. Why is the freedom to follow your own conscience, to believe what feels true to you, without being afraid? Why is that still one of the most important and most precious ideas in the entire world?